Hey guys, this is Martin Wright from Argos Dog Training here in Boston. We're gonna go outside of our normal scheduled programming today because some news came up over the week in the dog training world, and that is the news about Petco and their decision to stop selling electronic training collars. A decision I actually agree with, although I think that their way to the right answer was incorrect, and that's what we're gonna be talking about today. I have with me a young dog named Cerebi, and today, as we're talking about Petco and their decision not to sell electronic training collars, I'll be practicing with Cerebi, sitting on the leash. This is the first time, that might be a little close, Frank. This is the first time that Cerebi has had to sit on the leash, especially with Frank here, or any stranger really, being this close as we are to each other. So we'll see how she does. As of today, Petco no longer sells shock collars operated by a person with a remote in hand because as a health and wellness company dedicated to improving pet lives, they have no business in our business. Wow, that's a poorly written letter. That's just bad. Anyway, guys, and frankly, we believe there's a better way. So today we say out with shock collars and in with positive training. I really want to, every time that he uses bold print in here, I really want to just shout. Okay, so the first thing that we have to talk about is shock collars. Now, whenever you hear anybody refer to an electronic training collar as a shock collar, there should be a bunch of follow-up questions that you ask that person immediately. The first question is, have you had any training on an electronic training collar? Have you ever used one? Are you familiar with the tool? Are you familiar with the uses of the tool? Those are the kind of questions I want to ask first, because anybody who has any training with an electronic training collar would never call it a shock collar, for the simple reason that professional dog trainers do not use this collar to shock dogs. We use electronic stimulation at very low levels in order to help the dog communicate at a distance and without leash. The next thing is, what is an electronic training collar? I have two, and I'm gonna go over show this real quick. I have two versions. One is from, I believe, the late 60s that I found in a thrift store somewhere. This is a transmitter. There you go. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time, and this is the receiver, all right? And the other one is my favorite brand of electronic training collar, which is the e-collar technologies. This is the mini educator. Here is the transmitter, and here is the receiver. The transmitter these days are rheostat controls, meaning that we're able to, for the good collars, they're rheostat controls, meaning that we're able to control the sensation that the dogs feel to a high degree. So we know exactly how much pressure or tension we're putting on the dog by the use of the electronic training collar, and we're able to keep it at a level where the dog can feel it and can know that we're trying to communicate with them, but not at a level where it's intended to be an aversive or to add any kind of pain. As anybody who works with electricity knows, that the problem is in the amperage, and if the amperage gets too high, it does shock us and it does hurt. But if the amperage is really low, it can actually feel good. If you ever used a TENS unit, then you understand this, because that is electricity and the amperage is really low, it feels really good, and it eases out our muscles, and it's not a big deal. The letter also refers to non-handheld training collars. And those are like the bark collars or the fences, which Petco still sells. If the dog is not being, quote, shocked for chewing the shoes, they're still being, quote, shocked for barking. And Petco is okay with that. And they're still being, quote, shocked for running across a line and running out of a yard. And Petco is okay with that too. So the Petco argument as to why they're going to take the collars off the shelves, or the electronic training collars off the shelves, which I actually agree with, that they should take them off. But the reason why is because the owners of dogs might use those collars incorrectly and might use levels on it that they shouldn't be using for the dog, or levels that are too high for the dog and could possibly abuse the dog. Yes, that is a possibility and it can happen. Of course, when you sell things to the public, you're going to get all kinds of different people who come in and buy it. But that doesn't mean that the tool itself is bad or the tool itself should not be used. Maybe it should not be sold at a Petco or at a store like that. Maybe it should be sold from professionals who teach people how to use it as they get it. But if somebody wants to abuse a dog, they don't need an electronic training collar to do it. There are many ways to do that. The goal is not to abuse the dog when we're training. The goal is to train the dog. Now, I don't want to even talk a lot about that right now, but I promise you this, I will make a video about how to find a good dog trainer in the future. And that video, if you follow the advice that's going to be in that video, you'll find a dog trainer that will not help you to abuse your dog using an electronic training collar. The other thing that I want to mention here is that the quality of the collars that Petco sells in general are a lot lower level or lower quality than the collars that I would give to my clients after a bunch of training. Another thing is that I never give an electronic training collar to any of my clients until they have mastered certain skills with dog, understanding dogs, canine communication, until they understand certain concepts of operant conditioning and how they work. So I agree with Petco. You shouldn't sell cheap, crappy collars to ignorant people who don't know better. And I agree that they should remove it. And while they're at it, they should remove all that crappy dog food that they have. And they should remove all those dangerous toys that they also sell. And they probably should remove some of the other electronic training collars and bark collars that are really cheap. All right, so my main problem with the Petco argument, and it is an argument, although it's a poorly written letter and they're trying to come across all like, yeah, we're cool and we write letters like this, but it is an argument about the use of a tool. And the reason why I disagree with it is because there's a lot of fallacies, a lot of logical fallacies in the argument. A fallacy is the use of invalid or otherwise faulty reasoning or wrong moves in the construction of an argument. A fallacious argument may be deceptive by appearing to be better than it really is. Some fallacies are committed intentionally to manipulate or persuade by deception, while others are committed unintentionally due to carelessness or ignorance. The fallacy, the actual fallacy that they're actually employing two, and one is appeal to emotion, which is where they attempt to manipulate us using our emotions, using things like fear, using things like pain in their comments, is intended to get us to have an emotional reaction to those words, so that way we agree with their argument, although there is no basis. In other words, there is no fear if the collar is used correctly. There is no pain if the collar is used correctly, but they continue to refer to these things as if they're true in order to get a reaction from us and say, oh, I don't want to hurt my dog, so I can't use this tool ever. And it's just fallacious. It's false. It's not true. Once again, I do agree that Petco and other retailers like that should not sell electronic training collars because it is a powerful tool and it can be misused. But they have no business in telling us that it is not good to use it when they don't understand the tool, and they have no business in trying to use fear and our emotions as a way to manipulate us and getting us to their argument. That's not going to work, because we have seen too much and we know how to use these tools. We've been using these tools for a long time. So we know that they're false, and we know that they are not using the tools because of the way that they're referring to them and the things that they're saying about them, which is on their face, false. All right? Incredulity. Personal incredulity. Okay, so there's another reason why Petco is doing this, other than to scare people away from tools and to blame and shame people and to make ridiculous arguments that have no foundation and to be fallacious and all those other things that they're doing all at once. So that way they can sell more cookies to your dog, which is made out of poor ingredients. The other thing that they're doing is that they're launching new training programs. They've always had this side Petco store training program where they would invite people to come in and they use treats to basically try to train dogs with the treats that come off the shelves from their store. So what would happen is you'd walk in, you would have your treats that you bought from somewhere, and you would start training your dog, and your dog might not be interested in those treats, so they'll walk you over and say, try these treats that are right here on our shelves. And then you'll buy those treats, and then the dog might listen for a little while, but pretty soon gets bored of those treats. You guys know what I'm talking about, because a lot of people go to Petco for training, and then they come to me for training. And that I'm not the only one. A lot of my dog trainer friends, even purely positive dog trainer friends who just use positive techniques, a lot of their clients go to Petco first for training, and then they come out. Petco training is very interesting, and I've had employees that were there as trainers, and they really do train from a book that Petco says, this is what you're gonna do with the dogs, which is kind of not gonna work with every dog, right? And that's the problem. But anyway, back to the topic, which is that they are starting to launch a new program where they're going out into people's homes and they're trying to train their dogs from their homes. So that is a part of what they're doing here. They're trying to advertise and trying to make a big deal out of this so that way they get a lot of press coverage for their new program. All right, so check this link here. It goes into detail about the business, Petco's business, and how it works, and what their motivations really are. And then this link here is gonna go to a dog podcast called The Quirky Dog, where one of the hosts of the podcast is a dog trainer, and he goes into detail about, the ramifications and the reasoning as to why Petco would do this as well. So definitely check both those links out. Now, the important thing to keep in mind about electronic training collars, and something that Petco doesn't mention, is that it's just a tool, right? So I don't necessarily need any particular tool in order to be able to communicate with my dog. So I don't necessarily need a leash, an electronic training collar, a slip chain, a treat in order to communicate with my dog. I want to practice in a way that I could use any of these tools or I could use none of them. We should be able to communicate with dogs empty-handed. So that's a big part of the focus of my training. And I believe a lot of my friends and a lot of people who train dogs, that's a big part and focus of what they are doing. So I'd like to leave this open for you guys. I'd like you guys to comment and let me know what you think about Petco removing these items from the shelves, what you think about the arguments that I presented here today, what you think about use of emotion, appeal to emotion as a technique to convince people in general and in this case. I would like to know all of that. I'd like to learn about all of that. So definitely make comments, let us know. Check the description below for links to our other social media. And let us know anywhere you want what you think about these videos. As far as Sarabi and how she's doing, Sarabi, I guess I need to listen or watch The Lion King to see how they pronounce the name there. But and how she's doing, she has calmed down quite a bit since I've been sitting on the leash with her in this environment. She's doing good at home. And in general, when I'm doing office work, when there's nobody else around. But with these lights, here, she was a little bit whining. And of course, with Frank being here, she was a little bit whiny. Maybe Frank will put in a little bit of B-roll with how she looked last week. She's now in the second week of our board and train together. Please feel free to share this episode with anybody who you think might be interested in this topic. If you like our channel, then definitely subscribe. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you would like to learn more about Argos dog training, check the description below for links to our other social media outlets and to our website. Until the next time, enjoy your day and enjoy your dog.